All right, we are back live with Garik. And Garik, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, or good night, whenever you are.
That's right. It's not as late as last time when we were up until about 3 or 4 a.m., but it's a decent time of night. So, look, appreciate you having you here because the DroneSec team has read your book that you co-authored, obviously with Andrew Staniforth, and the book is from Artec House, Countermeasures for Aerial Drones. We've got it sitting on our shelf, and we highly recommend it as well. And when we found out that you were able to speak as well,
Thanks for
we're really excited. So yeah, do you want to take it away? And your slides are ready to share. We thank
yeah.
you for having you. We know you've only got about half an hour, so I'll let you kick off with the presentation. And if we have questions afterwards, we'll get into them.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Just the first question. Can you see my screen? Hello? Hello?
Thank you. We can see your screen.
Can you? So I'm not sure if you can see my screen.
Hey, Garik, we can see your screen and we can hear you, so you can go back to present it. Sorry for that hiccup there. Yes, it's perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. So again, on behalf of myself and Andrew, I would like to thank you for inviting. It's both pleasure and honor to be here. And I hope I already took something useful from the previous presentation, and I hope you guys can find something useful in ours. First, who we are, where we are. So I've talked of myself. I'm Garik Markarian. I have a pleasure of being professor of communication at Lancaster University, but also the founder and the chairman of Renicom Limited. It's a UK company. I'm sure you already had a lot of discussions about the drones, how they've been used, how they could be used, and what security threats they are possessing. I will not be talking about this. I will say what we think about it. And we, as a company, as Renicom, we are in the counter-UAV sector for the last 4 or 5 years. We focus purely on the optical detection, tracking, and classification sensors. And this is basically to utilize our expertise in visual analytics and artificial intelligence. And why the optical? Because as we know, all the sensors are important, and you cannot solve the problem with just one sensor. Everyone agrees what you need to have a multiple of sensors to complement each other. But we said the final decision is like a last mile in communications. You need to have an optical system to see the drone, to identify, to classify, and to do forensic investigation after that. So I just took 2 quotes what we used before. Conventionally, everyone thinks the optical system is just a camera, and what you need a radar or the RF detection to detect the drones, and then once you detect, you point manually such a camera into and zoom it into the drone, which was the case until recently, but not anymore. The problem started when people started deploying the anti-drone systems. They realized what the illegal drones, they don't fly very often, but what you need to have a 24/7 operator sitting and looking to the sky and manually pointing the system all over. So then there came a requirement to have this automated. And this is where we came. So we, as a company, we introduced basically AI-based systems with the optical detection. And in our system, we take the AI, artificial intelligence, to control these systems rather than the operators. And the human operators only come to the equation when the drone is classified as the rogue drone or the dangerous drone, and the decision needs to be made what kind of countermeasure to engage. Should it be the jammer or the sniper or kinetic or the eagle or whatever? So what we did, we introduced the system, which just one of the systems, which called the Sky Patriot. It's patented. And the system, from what we believe, it's quite advanced. A lot of people tell us what they're one of the best on the market. And it is proven by the numerous installations. Our system is installed in some really critical installations. I can say what it's installed in Heathrow Airport. I also can say what it's installed in a number of prisons, in the military bases, and it also installed in the Far East as well. So it's quite well accepted system. The performance what we are getting with the standard Bosch cameras, as you can see, is about 1.8 kilometers for classification and 3 kilometers for the detection. But if you use the better and more expensive cameras, obviously the range will increase accordingly. And this is just a simple diagram showing what it's not just a camera, but there is a lot of behind it, including like the multiple modules and analytics. So I won't go into the details. I just simply show what we can do. So, for example, we on the left-hand side, where you see like trees and everything, that's the test area what we are using. On this screen, you can see the drone, which is a Target 94, but we also can see our like the birds and some movements on the trees and so on. So the system detects the drones, but it ignores the other moving target. Then we have a classifier, which is on the right-hand side. And then the result of classification, we see the target. It's classified as a drone, and it's plotted on a map. We also can do the birds. So we can detect and classify the birds, which is quite important for many airports as well. And we can detect and classify the drones and the birds at the same time. So we can give like a pretty accurate information about who is who flying in the protected area. And our latest result also what we can do, like while everyone is interested to find the drones, then for making decision what countermeasure to apply, it will be good to know what this drone is carrying. If it is just a camera, it's one thing. And I always say, in some cases you want to hide from the camera, but in some cases you come out, and if it's a paparazzi drone and you are desperate for publicity, you may come out. But you really want to know if your drone is carrying something, like in the videos from the previous presentation. And today, to the best of our knowledge, there is no system what can say, well, this is a rogue drone and this is carrying the dangerous good. We actually have the new addition to our solution, which is a payload detection. And it's not just simply zooming camera to the drone and to see if it's carrying anything. Again, with the help of AI, we analyze the drone movements. And by comparing with the movements of loaded drone or with unloaded drone, we cannot say what it is carrying because it's impossible. It's inside the box. But we can say and predict, estimate the weight of the payload, what the drone is carrying, which is useful in making the decisions. One thing what I also wanted to talk today is, in the past few years, there were a lot of discussions about the counter-UAV systems and how it is important and so on and so forth. And today, I personally know about 220 to 130 systems from about 150 suppliers who provide the different counter-UAV systems for different applications. The problem is, as there is no single use, there is also no single kind of type of application. And there is always starts the question, say, for whom you are developing your system, who is your end user? Because the different end users have the different requirements. Obviously, if you are protecting military base, in one requirement, if you are protecting the musical festival in the summer, it's another requirement. And if you're protecting your personal yacht in the Caribbean or somewhere, it's another requirement. So we came to the problem what actually it's not what important to design the drone, but it's a counter-UAV system, but it's important to design the counter-UAV system, specific counter-UAV system for specific user. And as a result, we talked to a few partners in Europe, and we've been successful in obtaining a project and the R&D grant from the European Union. And the project is called the DroneWise. And the aim of the grant is actually to engage with the end users, with the law enforcement agencies. In some cases, advise them what to do. In some cases, to learn from them what they want so the system could meet their requirements, and to put together some sort of a plan and a product which will help them to deal with the counter-UAV systems more efficiently. And it says here, though, the aim of this DroneWise is significantly improve the security of public spaces by enhancing of cooperation and coordination between the first responder agencies. And the objectives of this project are listed here. And it's quite a few of these objectives. And we started with the analysis of the end user requirements. As I said, there are different end users, and all of them, they have a different requirements. So no point to develop one system to meet all these requirements. As I said, in some cases, a simple aeroscope system from DJI will be sufficient, but in many cases it's not, and you need to have a special custom-made system. What we also know, what the technology never stops, and the bad guys are usually the first one to employ the new technology against you. So we are always catching up with them. So we were conducting the continuous analysis of the new technologies, what are coming up to the market, and we are actually implementing them in our systems as well. And very often in these attacks, it's not one agency will be acting, but maybe a multiple. So there is also the issue of the coordination between the different agencies. And again, we are providing some recommendations how this could be done in the most efficient way, assuming what the agencies already have some sort of system in place. So the counter-UAV system should be integrated into existing solutions rather than opposite, rather than existing systems should be adapted to the new counter-UAV. What we also did, we actually looked to all the terrorist cases, what been done through with the drone help, and we have a huge library of these cases. And finally, one of our outcomes, what we did, we've developed a counter-UAV training program. And this training program is, again, it's a customized, and it's for the different end users. We provide a different level of training. And the training is quite comprehensive. It includes the technical part of the training, describing the drones and the counter-UAV technologies, the different sensors, advantages and disadvantages for each of the sensors. But the significant part of the training is dedicated to regulations. Simple questions, like in many countries, the jamming is not legal. Even police cannot use the jammer. So what do you do with the drone flying towards you and your critical infrastructure, and so on. And there is also new regulations are coming up, so slowly. So we are helping the law enforcement agency to understand these new regulations and to modify their procedures accordingly. And the output of our project, which will be in a few months, will be a training program. It will be a handbook for the law enforcement agencies, describing what all the tools and what to do, how to manage these tools. We also work with quite a few law enforcement agencies to develop the coordination strategy. And we are also putting the trainers program, because we cannot go anywhere in the world and start training. So we are providing this training for trainers, where people who attend our training program, they will be doing the consecutive trainings to their colleagues. And we are developing, and it will be live soon, a counter-UAV online training portal, where more or less everywhere they can go and look through the slides, look through the training, and pass maybe even some mock tests and the mock exams, to get a better understanding of all the issues related to this. And I cannot say that, thank Mark, so you mentioned this book, but Arctic has also asked us to promote the book. So I use the chance to do a little bit of promotion. So this is our book. It was published a few months ago, and we really enjoy doing it, and we like doing it. So hopefully you will like it, not at least as much as we, but hopefully you will like it. And that completes my presentation, and thank you very much. We'll be happy to take questions.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Garik. We appreciate it. And I'm getting a little bit of feedback on my mic. That seems about okay. Awesome. So I'll ask you some questions if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Brilliant. This question says, are there any catch-all procedures where mitigation might be banned, such as jammers, but it should be used to save lives illegally if required?
It's a very good question. The answer is it depends in which country. In some cases, a decision is made by the commanding officer. So he will have to look into the situation. And it's again, if it is a drone which flies just with the camera, it is like paparazzi drone, probably he will be in trouble if he applies this. But if it is a drone carrying something what you don't know and starts spraying or dropping something, then yes, he could be under excuse. I know the few cases where the Counter-Uas system, like a jamming system, were installed in prisons to protect the bringing contraband by drones. And actually, the officer who was responsible for this decision, he had, let's say, some issues, and we've been asked a lot of questions of why he is using jamming, because legally he is not allowed to use, even though it is for the obvious, very good reasons. So it's a gray area. Let's put it to answer this question. It's a gray area.
And I guess that's something that the DroneWise project might be trying to figure out and have a standard operating procedure for. Okay.
Yeah.
And another question says, how different is the terrorist threat to public spaces per country? How do you quantify it per different country?
I guess it also should be linked to the terrorist level in this country, because you know each country has its own terrorist level for the possible attacks and so on. It also should link to the kind of existing regulations about the usage of drones. And I can say in the UK and in the US, it's quite strict. And there are also certain procedures and certain countermeasures in place. So it is possible, but it's much more difficult. The big change in the UK was a couple of years ago, the case with the Gatwick airport, where the whole airport was stamped, and still people don't know who was flying these drones and who was behind it. So after that, a lot of changes happening. So there is a lot of procedures in place. So it will be quite difficult to do this in the UK. I don't know about the other countries, but the countries what we are working with, they show what they understand the issues. And it's not only they want to buy the Counter-Uas system. They're also working, we are working with the law enforcement agencies on regulation and integration with the procedures. Again, I'm sounding probably wishy-washy, not answering the questions, but these are all the questions with kind of open questions, have no answers.
Sure.
I'm sure you know the answers about what these drones been used actively to attack on the oil processing facilities, to attack like even some heads of states and so on. You've seen probably the video where the drone was flying, illegal drone was flying above Angela Merkel's head. So these things happen, but it happened in the early days. I don't think this will happen now.
Okay, and look, from your experience, I guess from the DroneWise project, is there any kind of methodology for law enforcement where a counter-UAS system isn't there? You know, what does a typical standard operating procedure look like for them, or what is the first thing they could do if they had no jamming or detection systems?
It's a good question. So if you have no Counter-Uas system and you see the drone flying towards your direction, I guess watch and pray. What can we do?
Right. So maybe something we'll see come out of the project as well.
Yeah, obviously this is not what we recommend in the project. We recommend what, for example, like a different kind of hierarchy of Counter-Uas systems. There should be systems which are permanently installed in critical infrastructure location. There should be systems which could be portable and moved when required. Say if you have a music festival once a year in this field, you don't have to keep the drone system all the time in there. There should be system during the football matches where the fans are coming and so on, in the airport, obviously. But importantly, the system should not be like a standalone isolated systems. They all should be linked to, in a similar way, like every country has its national counter-missile protect defense system. So the same way they should have eventually the counter-UAV protection system, and this could be probably linked and integrated with the counter-missile system. We even have these discussions going on. I mean, everyone accepts what the drones will become a reality of our life, and Amazon and Google are the best examples. And we are probably in the stage like we've been, 150 years ago when the first cars were introduced. People were saying, oh, these are dangerous, they will be killing people and so on, but they still were using it. So what we'll require? We'll require some sort of the rules for the flying the drones. So people who want to fly them legally, they have to comply with the rules. And I know what such regulations for the drones for airfaces in the development. But then, as always, when you have a rules, you need to somehow to impose the rules, and you need to monitor. It's like in the traffic, so basically, like on the road, we have a traffic cameras to control the speed. There will be a counter UAV system which will be controlling who is flying where. Are you following the altitude and the corridors which are allocated to you, or you're cutting corners and so on? And there will be issues to detect these people, maybe not to shut them down, but to identify, to send a penalty notice, and maybe to remove the licenses and so on. This is coming, this will happen, and I'm proud to say what we are part of this.
Brilliant. No, look forward to it. Garik, there was a question about one of your slides. If you don't mind, we're going to pull your slides back up. And I think it was the second last page there. It mentioned a coordinated center or coordination project. I think it was, yes, that one. Counter UAV command, control, and coordination strategy. Does that entail bringing together different counter UAS vendors, or is it more law enforcement? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Both. The coordination strategy will be the different law enforcement agencies as well, but also different systems as well. The problem is some of the outcomes of the projects are restricted. I can say what we are doing. Mention what this is what we are doing. It's in the public domain. But for more details, I probably will need to know who is asking the question and can talk directly to them.
Sure. No, that makes sense, and I understand that. So let's focus on the DroneWise project itself. What do you think, if you're the best person to answer this, what do you think was the biggest learning outcome of doing the project in terms of something that kind of changed the perception before starting it?
I can tell personally what was the major difference for me. Coming from the technical background, I was thinking what the technology is everything. And I was thinking, for example, what increasing, let's say, the detection range by another 500 meters or classification accuracy and so on, it's the most important thing. Apparently, it is important, but it's not the most important. The most important thing is to make sure what the end users, people who will be using it, they are happy with the system. So they accepted the system, and the system could be easily incorporated into their procedures. So they don't need to retrain all their stuff. They don't need to change their procedures. It's very similar. We have similar experience, like when you bring the new medical devices into hospital. And one of the key factors of success is how much medical personnel and the nurses like your device or not. You may have the best technology in the world, but if the nurses don't like it and they found it difficult and so on, it probably will not fly. So the same here. So we had to change our focus from kind of polishing and increasing the performance and so on, and as a result, sacrificing on the user-friendly applicability to do it opposite. So we wanted to make it user-friendly, more integrable with the existing procedures. And if it takes, let's say, slight degradation in performance, then so it be. So that's, for me, was the main outcome from this.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay.
Because technically, the customer is the king. So whatever customer needs, we have to do this, rather than as an engineers to tell them this is what you have to do.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay, and look, we might give you just one more question that we have before you head off. So, look, this question is about Counter-Uas evaluation, and we have a speaker coming up very soon next to look at how we can evaluate the actual effectiveness or the transparency of how a system works well. Within the DroneWise project, you talk a little bit about getting them trained on Counter-Uas systems. Is there any appetite for that evaluation of systems, or how they can evaluate them themselves?
This is actually, I would say, it's the huge appetite, and not only from the end user, but from us as well. Because if possible, I will definitely watch this video, the next presentation about the evaluation, and will be good. I probably will get in touch, because we probably even will integrate it into our training program, this evaluation thing.
Okay, so something that's definitely on your radar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Brilliant, Garik. Well, appreciate you coming and talking with us today. Thanks again for taking the time, and we wish you all the best, and hopefully see you again at another GDSN.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys, and best of luck for your project.